a look at some of the other notable games we are watching out for this weekend. Well, watching right along with us, our two-time Super Bowl champ, Bryant McFadden, joining us now. Bengals, they were Cinderella last season, and B-Mac, it kind of feels like they're passing the crown over to the Dolphins, who they face on Thursday, kicking off week 4. What the Dolphins accomplished so far, I think, is what the kids call a glow-up, right? I don't know if the kids are still calling it that, but they are still a 4-point road dog against Cincinnati, total 47. Which way are you leaning here?
I'm leaning towards the total, and here's why. Looking at the Miami Dolphins, they utilized a lot of energy in that ball game this past Sunday against the Buffalo Bills on both sides of football. We're hearing some injury concerns to their starting quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. Now, granted, they're saying it's not concussion related, but it's back related. And he basically said he's yet to throw a football so far this week, getting ready for the ball game against the Cincinnati Bengals. So what type of offense will we see from the Miami Dolphins, knowing that their star quarterback probably won't throw any meaningful passes until Thursday night of the ball game? And then when you transition to the Cincinnati Bengals, a much needed win this past Sunday against the Jets, but the issues for their team has been well documented. The inability to protect their passer and Joe Burrow has been the most common theme associated with their team offensively. So I think both offenses will struggle going against both defenses, and I think the total is the more attractive line for me. And if you're not quite comfortable with 47, do what I did. I bought up a point. I bought up to 48. And then when you look at both teams, I understand this is new personnel on both sides of the football when you look at the common theme. But get this, with the Miami Dolphins, right? The under is 10-2-1 in the Dolphins' last 13 Thursday night ball games. For some reason, I don't care who the quarterback is, I don't care who the coach is, I don't care who the corners or the running backs, who they are for the Dolphins. Anytime they play on Thursday night, they find a way to hit that under. And then in regards to the Cincinnati Bengals, the under is 6-0 in the Bengals' last 6 ball games in the month of September. We're still in the month of September. They found ways to hit that under as well. So when you factor all of that into the equation, along with some of the offensive concerns for both teams, I take the under.
The Bills will visit the Ravens this weekend, both 2-1 on the season. Their only losses coming at the hands of Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins. The last 2 games have hit the under, with the last meeting going under by more than 29 points in the divisional round of the 2020 playoffs. That said, both of these teams are much different now, and this contest has shootout written all over it. B-Mac, what's your early lean on this game?
I'm all here for it, Katie. You said it. Shootout, shootout, shootout. I'm a defensive-minded guy, and usually I don't like to see a lot of points. But in regards to betting and putting money in my pockets and in your pockets, I'm taking the over. It's almost like watching Steph Curry go against Ja Morant. 2 guys that can put the ball in the basket. 2 quarterbacks that can put the football in the end zone and score points. Not to mention, both defenses have been subpar. Mostly injury concerns for the Buffalo Bills that has not warranted the type of dominating defense that we've seen from them in the beginning of the year. But the Baltimore Ravens can't stop anybody. I mean, they're averaging 33 points per ball game. Buffalo offense is averaging 30, but the defense from the Baltimore Ravens, they're allowing around 25 to 26 points per ball game. And you don't want to deal with issues or communication woes in the secondary when you're playing against Josh Allen. This right here is pretty much the MVP bowl. Both guys are clearly number 1 and number 2 in regards to the MVP conversation, and I think both guys will live up to the billing in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. So because of all of that, I'm taking the over.
Well, what a difference a year makes for Jacksonville. They're charged up after their big win over the Chargers this past week, but can they fly high into Philly now is the question. This game at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. And this is Doug Peterson's first game back to Lincoln Financial Field after leading Philly to a Super Bowl in 2019. Knowing that these guys are buying into Peterson, B-Mac, you have to think they're playing with extra motivation to get this win for their head coach.
Extra motivation, and this is a team that's playing with a lot of confidence. What they did last week in traveling to the Chargers and just manhandling the Chargers was something that they needed to see happen. They needed to feel happen because they believe they can play with any team in the National Football League. But in my opinion, this Sunday, they're going against the best team in the National Football League in the Philadelphia Eagles. The line right now is set at 6.5. So this is what I did. I believe the Philadelphia Eagles will win. But I bought up a half a point. So now I'm getting this line at 7. 8 points will cause me to lose. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars can cover the 7 points. Like I said, I don't mind buying points. I think you guys should be able to do it as well if it's available. But the thing about Jacksonville and why I like them to cover this spread is because Trevor Lawrence, man, you talk about night and day from what we saw last year. Look at the numbers there. Look at the numbers and look at what he's doing so far. What a difference a good coach can make to a player or players, right? And we're seeing them benefit from that in Duval County. So I like what Trevor Lawrence is doing. He's playing against a defense that can rush the passer, but get this, the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line-wise, they've only surrendered 2 sacks. 2 sacks so far in the season. They've done a great job in keeping their quarterback upright, and he's done a great job in hitting the open pass catchers, and not to mention they do a great job in harassing opposing quarterbacks as well. Like I said, I think the Eagles will win. But in regards to covering the spread, the 6.5 or the 7, if you want to buy it up a half a point, that's what I did. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will cover this spread. I'm excited, and I can't wait to see this ball game because I want to see how for real the Jacksonville Jaguars are.
BMAC buying a little bit of extra insurance there with a couple of these picks. Elsewhere, the Broncos will head to Vegas to take on the Raiders. The Broncos are in the first place in the AFC West, and the Raiders are the first 0-3 team in the NFL since the 1959 Lions. That said, I'm not sure that their records paint an accurate picture of this matchup. Denver has scored fewer points than 17 in 3 straight games, whereas Vegas has lost some close ones to good teams. BMAC, how do you see this one playing out?
Oh my goodness, it might be an ugly ball game. You talk about the Denver Broncos being, towards the top of their division. They might be one of the ugliest teams in regards to having a 2-1 record that we have in the NFL because they've done things so ugly. It's hard to watch. And then you talk about disappointment. It's the Raiders. They're one of the more disappointing teams in the National Football League. But one thing I can say about the Denver Broncos, they've been inconsistent when it comes to not scoring points. They're at the bottom of the league in regards of points average per ball game. Around 14 points is what they average. That's 31st in the National Football League. But defensively, this is a unit you don't want to play around with. Defensively, they're number 3 in total defense. They're number 8 in sacks. They're number 2 in points allowed, only allowing 12 points. When you factor all of that into the equation, especially with some of the offensive woes that we're seeing from Derek Carr and his offensive line and keeping him upright, you better believe you guys know exactly where I'm going. The under, the under, the under. The Denver Broncos defense has really kept them afloat every week, and they've done a phenomenal job in making life difficult for whatever offense they go against. I think we will see that same type theme, same type trend for the Denver Broncos. So I'm taking the total. Give me the under.
From a defensive guy like BMAC, that is high praise. But from defense to offense, Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes, sign me up. Sunday Night Football capping off the 6th meeting between these two in the first since Super Bowl 55. But there's definitely a different feel to this one. Both QBs are coming off a Week 3 loss. So unless someone ties here, it's guaranteed to have consecutive losing games, which is rare for both. Chiefs are a slight favorite, BMAC, total 45. What's your play?
The total is the play for me for a few reasons. Number one, will Tom Brady have any healthy wide receivers to throw the football to? We just saw this past Sunday. I mean, he had a patch group of wide receivers just kind of assembled together at the last minute and tried to make something happen. He couldn't make it happen. And he's human. I mean, he can't make sweet tea without any sugar. He needs to have some sugar. This past Sunday, he had no sugar, and that tea was kind of bitter. I like my tea sweet, by the way. But with that being said, we know Mike Evans will be back from his suspension. But outside of that, we don't know if we will see Chris Godwin. We don't know if we will see Julio Jones, Scotty Miller. That has been the issue for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The injuries at the wide receiver position. I think we will see some concerns there. And then when you transition to Money Pat Mahomes, I mean, the offense outside of Week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals, it's been a little inconsistent, been a little stagnant, to say the least, especially going back to last week's ball game against the Colts. And oh, by the way, they're playing against the number 1 scoring defense in the National Football League in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Get this, they're only allowing 9 points per ball game. So I think all of that will play a major part in the total hitting the under, and that's the direction I'm going.
All right, well, let's get a recap of BMAC's early NFL Week 4 leans. He likes Dolphins Bengals under 47. Also taking the over Bills and Ravens 51.5. He likes the Jags plus 6.5 at the Eagles. Taking the under again, Broncos Raiders. As for Chiefs Bucks, taking under 45 in that one.
All right, well, there are too many good matchups on the Week 4 slate not to roll the dice on a big money parlay. BMAC, what have you put together for us?
I got a nice 4-leg parlay for everyone watching us, starting off with the under in regards to the Raiders and the Broncos ball game. I like the Jacksonville Jaguars to cover. Like I said, if you're not quite comfortable with that 7 in the hook, buy it up to 7 points. That might make you feel a little more comfortable in taking the Jags to cover. I like the under in the Buccaneers Chiefs ball game, and then of course the under in the Miami Dolphins in the Cincinnati ball game, which happens Thursday night. And the good thing about my parlay is that you have a Thursday night game involved. If something happens and the under does not hit, you got more than enough time to create another parlay for the games on Sunday. That's the good thing about betting and getting these early ball games involved in your parlay, because if your parlay is alive Friday, you feel pretty good going into Sunday. But if it's disco dead by Friday morning, Thursday night, guess what? We can create a whole nother new parlay.
I see you, BMAC. Look at that.
A lot of strategy there, a lot of strategy there. And we'll make sure there's some sweet tea here next time you are in studio. BMAC, thank you so much.
No question. No question.
All right, here's a look at BMAC's parlay. He's going with a trio of unders: Bengals, Dolphins, Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Broncos, Raiders. He likes the Jaguars to cover the 6.5 against the Eagles. Total payout on that plus $12.28 at $25 bet will net you just over $300.
Well, when we come back, we're staying on the gridiron. We head to the college ranks with your best bets to make ahead of Week 5. Stay with us here on CBS Sports HQ.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.